Welcome back to Sports Dump, Lewis County's only sports podcast, sponsored by Elam's Home Furnishings and Mattress Gallery, Global Septic, and AmeriCool Heating and Cooling. And fellas,
we're in the endgame now.
It's a callback for all you listeners from last year, I guess.
Yeah, was that Alec's thing?
Yeah.
You just love to say we're in the endgame now?
Well, no, you love to tell Alec that.
Well, I just like to troll Alec because he's such a cinephile. I don't think he approved of the Marvel movies.
Are we in the endgame now?
Yeah, we're in the endgame now. I think so. We've got to be.
To quote him last season, basketball just started, so I don't know.
Yeah. Yes. Do you want to do movie talk, Josh, or do you want to get into football happening?
Yeah, let's talk about sports.
Do you want to talk about UW?
We could if
we'll get to that later, but we'll bring it up at the end.
Go Cubs.
The state football semifinals occurred
They did.
on Saturday. You guys were all there. You looked great out there.
You were there, weren't you?
I stayed for the first half, yeah. It was cold. I had my kid with me.
It was cold.
We were like, let's go to Costco and get some hot dogs. We did that.
That sounds like fun.
It was great. Yeah. You know what? That was my first half of football this season. It was great. Semifinals recap in the 2Bs at Tumwater District Stadium on Sit-On Field on Saturday. Napavine defeated Onalaska 36-26. Thoughts?
It was a pretty good game.
Glad it was close.
Yeah.
Much better than the first time they played.
Yeah.
It's the closest game for them for Napavine in a while, and yeah.
Yeah, from what...
I mean, you left at halftime, so it wasn't super close when you left.
No, but for the first quarter or so, I was like, I got a pretty good feel for things. It was like Onalaska's doing their thing. They need to do this and play mistake-free football, and they could pull this off.
And then they fumbled a kickoff. And
Yeah.
If
Onalaska
like
had a solid pass coverage or just stopped the 50-yard bombs, they legitimately could have won this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the big thing was talking about that first half went the way it did. You know, Onalaska scored first. Napavine scored the next 30 points. It was 30-12 at halftime, and then it was 36-12 at halftime, or 36-12 into the third quarter. But Onalaska kept at it, right? The week 2 game, it was 6-0 Onalaska, and then it was 36-6 Napavine, and then it just kept going. Whereas this time, Oni held on. They were talking about they needed to play 4 quarters, and this was 2 teams that both played 4 quarters this time.
One could say they kept on digging.
They did keep on digging.
They did.
They almost dug a little bit too much, if I'm going to be honest, because that's like, I don't know if I'd go so far as to say that if this game was 10 minutes longer, Ani had a real chance, but with the 12-minute quarters that they were given, they did not have nearly enough time to do what they wanted to do.
Yeah, there wasn't much of a sense of urgency, especially in that fourth quarter. I kept just looking and, they're taking 30, 35 seconds off the play clock. If they were down 1 score, it would have been fine, but you're looking all of a sudden it gets below 2 minutes, and yeah, they're in plus territory near the red zone, but even if you score, you still got to get an onside, and you still got to go score again. It felt, even if they had scored there on their final possession, it just felt like a long shot. But the fact that it was even within range at that point,
first team
they
would do
certainly
that in a
did
while.
enough to.
Yeah,
I agree. It really
cap.
felt like there wasn't any urgency at all. You got guys just walking back to the line of scrimmage with like in the red zone with like a minute and a half left in the game, down by 10. Yeah.
Well, and I think part of it was we saw it against Kalama. Like the one thing that Napavine did was, and I got the feeling standing on the Napavine sideline, like they weren't getting down on themselves for giving up those long drives because they knew what was going on with the clock.
Yeah.
They were just focused on make sure Caden Mizingo gets 7 yards instead of 70. And they did a really good job of that because Ani is very good at 10 plays going for 3 yards and then 1 breaks for a touchdown. And they never got that against Napavine. And as long as Napavine could control that, they were happy to make them take 10 minutes to score. Napavine ran 4 plays in the fourth quarter. Ani got the ball back with 2 minutes left in the third. They took all that time and 5 minutes more and scored a touchdown. And then Napavine went 3 and out. And then I think Ani got the ball with 8 minutes left. And when did James Gross ended it with a pick with like a minute?
I want to say like 90 seconds at the most.
So.
All right. So this was the closest game against a 2B school for Napavine. since the 2021 state title game. That was at Harry Lang, wasn't it?
It was.
That was where I met Josh for the first time.
You bought me a cup of coffee.
He bummed some dollars off of me.
He bummed
and
$1 off of you.
Went on his merry way and came back warming his hands on a steaming cup of coffee.
Oh, it was like one of the worst cups of coffee I've ever had.
That was some god-awful
Terrible.
coffee. Let's see. Ashton Demarest in this game was 14 of 21 passing. He started the game 8 for 11 for 316 yards and 3 touchdowns. Pretty good.
Yep.
Connor Holmes had 201 yards on 7 catches. Good game for him.
He had
2 touchdowns?
2 touchdowns, and his 2 touchdowns, I think his first touchdown was a 57-yarder, and his second touchdown was a 60-yarder, and then he set up their third touchdown. They had like 3rd and 9 inside the 10, and they went over the top for like 50 yards to get to midfield, and then 2 plays later or something, Ashton Demarest hit Kel Kelly for a 40-yard touchdown. It was the downfield passing game.
And that second touchdown was it was in the second quarter, I believe. It was as much of a backbreaker as a touchdown can be in the first half. If I remember correctly, Onalaska had scored to make it 14-12, and we're all kind of sitting there and going, hey, now, like, maybe we got something here.
First play of the game.
And it was one of those Demarest just kind of gets out of the pocket, extends the plays, and just makes it happen downfield. Connor's wide open. And
I think that was what I kind of said in the intro to this game was, if Napa Mine's passing game does that, then game over, and that's pretty much what happened.
For Onalaska, Caden Mazingo finished with 176 rushing yards. Rodrigo Rodriguez had 112 rushing yards. Mazingo finishes the season with 2,279 rushing yards, while Rodriguez finishes with 2,033 rushing yards. First time in program history, 2 Onalaska kids had 2,000-yard seasons. Pretty good. What did they finish the year? 9-3, I think.
Yeah, that sounds right. Lost.
Napavine is what, 11-1, 12-1?
11-1.
Okay. Yeah, that was one semifinal. We will
Good season
discuss.
for Ani.
Yeah, good year for Onalaska. I will ask the thing I usually ask. Do we feel like they overachieved, underachieved, or did just what we thought?
I think they did just what we thought if we assume that Onalaska is top tier in the state again. And that's kind of their standard.
For me personally, coming into this season, I did not expect them to be top tier in the state, so they definitely exceeded my expectations.
Yeah.
I mean, just having played them last year and watching them this year, the strides they made were just something
Huge.
I didn't think they could do. Yeah, in 1 year, I thought this was going to be a multi-year process for this rebuild, but now just one season, they're right back in the semifinals.
Yeah,
I feel like if you ask anybody other than Maz and Nelson and some kids wearing purple jerseys, that if they would see their season as a success by winding up in the semifinals and giving Napavine their best game against a 2B school.
After having beaten the only other team that beat them that year.
Yeah, they would probably see it as overachieving.
Yeah, and we'll see on Saturday whether I heard some people being like,
this was the real state championship
Exactly,
game.
yeah.
We'll see. Maybe it was. I don't know. The other game at Tumwater on Saturday. Tumwater beat North Kitsap 19-17 in the 2A semifinals. The top-ranked T-Birds picked up their 3rd win over North Kitsap in the last 15 months, and they're second by just 2 points.
Remember the 8-6 beautiful game last year?
I do not.
It was 8-6, and it was as bad as that suggested.
Sickos committee remembers.
It was a very big Sickos game. This one was better than that.
This game had a field goal.
Multiple field goal attempts.
Finished 1 for 3.
Yes.
On field goal
Did we
attempts.
count that
the
last
first
one?
even field goal
Yeah,
attempt
I'm counting that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd seen all season.
Wow. So
Perhaps-
you've been to a lot of 2B games.
Yeah, so that's how you know
Exactly,
you're getting
yeah.
good and big schools.
I'm used to going to 2B schools, and I see them line up for a field goal, and I'm just like, Josh, what do I do?
Fake.
He did come up to me because Tumwater got the ball. It was 7-7 with like a minute left in the second quarter, and it was very obvious they had like 3rd and a ton, and they were going to run and try to take a field goal. And we were standing on the sideline, and Cody's like, Josh, where do I go to get angles for this?
I was like, well, do I take photos from the sidelines or a video from under the goalpost? And We figured something out.
We sent-
The kick was
We sent
wildly
Cody,
missed,
we
but-
sent Cody under the goalpost to get that shot, like looking up, and I don't believe the kick made it to the
No,
goalpost.
I don't think it made it to
not
the end
make it
zone.
in frame.
It was
The North
shanked terribly.
Kitsap kid drilled one in the first half.
He did.
But
North Kitsap kicker, dog.
The game was tied 7-7 at halftime, but North Kitsap went into the fourth up 17-13. Tumwater took the lead early in the fourth on Cooper Clark's third touchdown, but missed the point after, so they were only up 2. The Vikings botched a snap on what would have been the go-ahead field goal with 6 minutes left. Is this one you're talking about?
This is
a different missed field goal?
Well, they didn't even miss this field goal. The snap went into the ground, and the holder picked it up and saw 5 defenders running at him, and was like,
Just ate it.
he tried to go to the sideline and run upfield, and it did not go great.
it was also like, for a high school kid, it was nearly 50 yards. I was sitting there. I was excited to see if he could boot it that
Well,
far.
that's the other thing. So again, North Kitsap came to Tumwater, and Tumwater last year, and Tumwater won this game 8-6, and that game featured North Kitsap missing 2 45-yard field goals in the second half.
Anyway, the Tumwater offense drained the rest of the clock with a 12-play drive to seal the win. Cooper Clark finished with 250 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns.
This was the most obviously they're making the state title game, but even compared to like some of the stuff last year, this was the most excited I've seen a Tumwater team. Probably period.
Yeah.
I mean, Dylan was covering it. It seemed like they were
pumped.
They were pretty pumped.
Cooper
Oh, yeah,
Clark
for sure. It was a party.
couldn't contain his emotions, which understandably so. 250 yards, 3 touchdowns, and they were all talking about how this is a group that's grown up together. They've always, growing up in Tumwater, what the standard is, and to be able to live up to that standard
Especially
on your home
after
field.
Not doing so last season.
Yep.
And Clark personally having that big of a game, and I learned later in the week that his dad and uncle are actually both won state titles in 89 and 90. His dad, Keith, ended up going to USC, was a Como prep athlete of the month at one point. And so just for him to kind of continue that, not only just the Tumwater element, but also just on a family level, he was very emotional and very happy after the game, as was everyone else.
Who's his dad? Is it Will Clark?
Keith Clark.
Oh,
Keith and Kevin Clark.
not Will Clark then.
No.
Will Clark.
Meanwhile,
Or Jack Clark.
Yeah.
Real Giants fans know.
In the 1Bs, over at Moses Lake, Wilbur Creston Keller defeated Mossy Rock 66-22.
Makes sense because Mossy Rock's 1 school and Wilbur Creston Keller is 3, so they
Yeah.
tripled them up.
What the hell?
Sorry,
Nice.
Mossy Rock. You are now part of Wilbur Creston Keller Mossy Rock School District. Your Blueberry Festival is now a alfalfa festival.
This is the amoeba.
yeah.
They've overtaken you.
The Vikings were down 44-14 at halftime. Zach Munoz ran for 21 yards, had 22 receiving yards, and also threw a 48-yard touchdown.
All purpose.
Mossy Rock finishes its season with a 10-2 record. And, same question on this one. Mossy Rock underachieve, overachieve, do what they thought? I would say overachieve.
I would say do what they thought.
I
and
think do what he thought. Do what we
it's
thought.
cool for that program that it kind of like Ani. Like it's cool that they are at the point where this is what they thought coming in. I mean, they blew like we expected this year. I think to go a little bit like last year, where they were going to blow through everybody, play Nacelle close, and then try to go on a state tournament. And they did all that, except for the fact that they also blew out Nacelle. They were clearly the best team in Southwest Washington, and then they just ran into the number 2 team in the state.
All right. You guys want to talk about Global Septic?
Always.
Yeah. Cody, how you doing? You taking any big dumps lately? Next time you do.
The amount of comments I got about that from people that listened to the podcast from a couple weeks ago.
People listen to
I'm
this?
just apparently.
Yeah, that's the big takeaway
And
here.
their takeaway is Aaron asking me, "Hey Cody, you take any big old dumps lately?"
Well, I mean,
I've just become the Global Septic poster boy at this point.
you should.
Thanksgiving
you
week too. Like
Yeah.
I figured it would be irrelevant.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
is
probably
there
their
anything
busy-
better than just wrapping up that big Thanksgiving dinner and heading out to your front yard and climbing into a Global Septic sanitation station and just letting her fly?
If they don't have Black Friday deals, they need to start having them, man. That's like their Super Bowl.
Global Septic provides septic service and sanitation, portable service and sanitation for Thurston, Lewis, Mason, Cowlitz, and Grays Harbor counties, septic pumping, septic inspection, septic riser installation, commercial septic pumping, grease trap services, and obviously they will rent you a porta potty and a sink to go with it. Wash yourself afterwards.
We got to get David. We got to introduce him to David Orr.
Who, Cody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dave Orr, the Centralia fast pitch coach, and also the king of Global Septic.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mr. Goebel himself.
Yeah, pretty much. Visit goebelseptic.com, GOEBEL septic.com, or give them a call, 360-736-2167. 2B State Finals preview. It's Groundhog Day again.
We should have gotten that up on the computer.
What's the soundbite? Just it's Groundhog Day?
Again?
The alarm clock, maybe?
Yeah.
Napa is playing Okanagan for the fourth time in 9 years. I think I covered the first two.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I'm sure I did.
I remember last year we talked about how old you are.
Yeah, pretty old. Yeah, I have covered. I was trying. I pulled up.
See now moment there.
I did. I was thinking about state title games earlier today, and I was, for some reason, I thought at the time Morton White Pass lost the finals 7-0 to, I think it was Lindritzville Sprague.
Oh, yeah. I remember looking at the brackets and seeing that. That sounded like a banger of a game.
No, it wasn't. It was an awful game.
Really?
The first play of the game, Lindritzville Sprague cranked out a 69-yard touchdown.
Nice.
That was it. For the last
That had to be
40,
it.
for the last for the last 47 minutes and 44 seconds of the game, there was no scoring. I went through and reread my story, and I was like, "Damn, how did I get 800 words out of this?" Anyway,
First he crossed the 50-yard line, then he crossed the 49-yard line, then he crossed the 48-yard line.
yeah,
He
it was
fumbled
just
at the
like-
47.
It's just quotes from Aaron Poquette being like, "Yeah, we thought we just had to get some more stops, and it didn't help. It didn't do anything." Weird game. Anyway, yeah, I was just reflecting on all the state title games I've covered, and there is only 2 instances since 2008 where there hasn't been a District 4 2B team in the finals. There was there was the Kalama Okanagan year, I think, 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Who wasn't in District 4?
Well, not a Lewis
Oh,
County
okay.
coverage team.
Yeah.
And then there was the South Bend year, 2010.
Who was also District 4.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not a coverage area
Yeah.
team.
No, I
I've
get
got
what you
the
mean.
results for the follower polls on Instagram for the outcome of
for
this
predictions.
How
game.
many?
Yep. We've got
scientific poll you
Yeah.
conduct.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hey, guess what I got on my last stats test? Now that you bring that up,
What'd you
What'd
get?
you do?
a 97.
Let's go.
pretty good.
Yeah,
So, what do the people say?
we've got 56 votes for Okanagan and 214 for Napvine.
How many of those 56 votes go to Onalaska High School? Do you?
I like 4 that I saw already.
Shout out Kalama followers for
Kalama followers.
reposting the final score graphic.
Kalama 14-year-old girls
How about the
just
Tumwater
preying on
game?
their downfall.
Oh, save that for the Tumwater preview.
Oh, you want the
All right.
poll
No,
for the Tumwater?
we'll get you. We'll chime in with you when we get.
I
to
thought
the
you
Tumwater.
were leading into the stats about the Tumwater game.
No.
No, we'll get there in a minute. Anyway, Napa and Okanagan, 4th time in 9 years. We've already touched on how old I am, so just a refresher, Napa beat Okanagan 41-27 last year in the state title game. And on the 50-yard line, during the handshake line, Josh Fay told Okanagan coach Eric Judd, that's Eric with a C and a K,
Yep.
see you next year.
That was a great. I pulled that straight from the SB Live story. That was good. That was a good little line.
Cold.
And he was right.
You guys have got a bunch of stories in, Thursday's paper?
Yeah, coming
About
out tomorrow.
how Ashton Demarest is the Bo Nix of Washington football. Dylan wrote that, and Josh, I assume, cursed.
I think I made that
I
comparison.
think you made, yeah.
Go on.
This will be his 39th start at quarterback.
Jesus,
And
yeah.
the only reason it's not 42 is because they've earned the bye every year. And
Yeah,
the only
he's-
reason it's not more than that is because one was the COVID season was shortened his freshman year, and his brother was starting.
yeah.
So ever since he's had the opportunity to start, he has.
He has
and
played every
he's still
single
going.
game he could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this the last game of the Demarest dynasty in Napvine?
It is.
And before the Demers dynasty was
Stanley.
Dawson Stanley,
Stanley,
Wyatt
Wyatt
Stanley,
Stanley.
Tucker
Still
Stanley.
got a Stanley there.
This is
Yeah,
also
Bill.
the end of a Stanley dynasty, I believe, unless there's a
Yeah.
younger one. Which
That was
knows?
when I was down in
A
Long.
different Stanley,
Yeah.
so.
oh, is there more?
Well, there's, I don't know. These are, Kale is Rex's kid.
Yep.
Yes.
And Tucker, Dawson, Wyatt, and Reese before them are all Skeeter's kids.
They're all cousins.
Technical names. Yeah, they're cousins. Well, Rex and Skeeter are brothers.
Yeah. When I was down in Longview, the Oregon Rainier had 7 Tripp brothers, and 6 of them played quarterback, one after the other, for, I believe, like 16 years.
Damn.
But yeah, I mean, Ashton Demarest has been doing this forever, and got to talk to Josh Fay sort of about how he's grown and learned from his brother, and it was a good story on,
Yeah, it was
on that.
he was actually a wide receiver for his brother a couple of those years, and obviously he kind of, nitpicked Lathan's brain about, being a quarterback, and has over the years as well. And it was kind of cool because Lathan never ended up winning one with Napavine, but was there last year.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of felt like, winning one for the family. He thought he might have been the first. His grandpa might have won a title back in Morton when he was in high school. But either way, first time in a long time that, he kind of brought a title not only to Napavine, but kind of just home to the family as well. And yeah, his stats are wild. I think, if I remember correctly, he needs about 90-ish yards on the ground on Saturday to have back-to-back seasons with 2,000 yards through the air and a grand on the ground. And 2 touchdowns would put him over the century mark for the last 2 seasons.
Pretty good.
It was funny, I asked Josh Fay to sort of compare and contrast Lathan Demarest and Ashton Demarest. And he was like, Lathan was faster. He's probably one of the faster guys he's coached.
He was extremely fast.
I mean, he was quarterback in quotes a lot of the time. He was kind of the Kata Mazingo.
Well, the joke I always made about Lathan was that, like, he boiled football down to his essence, which was just he got away from people and then he stayed away from people.
Well, that was the thing. So Josh Fay's quote was they had what he had what he called scared speed, which was that when people were about to hit him, he got scared and ran even faster.
Yeah.
And
It worked.
Fay's quote was, Ashton doesn't do that because he doesn't care if he gets hit.
Yeah. It's one of those, what's your 40-yard dash time? 0.1 seconds faster than the guy chasing me, no matter what.
He was phenomenally fast.
Oh, I remember the COVID year, their opener, they played Kalama, and it was him versus Essery, and I think he ran for like 400 yards, and they were just all 80-yard touchdowns.
I'm sure Esri did the same thing.
He ran through a couple people, and he threw like 2 passes.
Oh. Yeah.
It was, Lathan Demarest, and they had Kata Vander, I think, hit 1 pass up the middle. That was about it.
Yeah. The other story you've got in Thursday's paper, since their star got hurt, the wide receiver group has proved how deep it is. This is a Kirschenbaum joint.
It is. They have, Napavine pretty much they graduated Max O'Neill, who really was more of a runner than a pass catcher from last season's team, but they brought back 5 receivers, including Carson Denault, who's probably the best athlete in 2B in the area. And everybody kind of expected them to wreck, and they did. And then Carson Denault got hurt 5 weeks ago. And ever since then, it's been a lot more of an even group. And they've got Connor Holmes, Cale Kelly, Colin Shields, and James Gross. And in 5 weeks, all 4 of them have led them in receiving yards at least once. And it's really been a lot more even. Holmes has become kind of the star in the past 2 weeks, but there's always a guy open for Demarest. And it's been cool to kind of see them balance that out, especially after probably their top option got hurt.
All right. And then we've got some scouting reports on Okanagan, and it sounds like it's all the same as last year.
I almost just copied my notes from last year's. Okanagan, I remember last year I did like a primer on Okanagan. It's still 2 square miles. Jill Townsend still went to Okanagan, famous alumni.
Oh, my favorite.
This is how much everything is the same. So last year they had Carter Kukenboot, who was their star quarterback and did everything for him. And then their lead back graduated, and I think one of their receivers graduated, and they decided to move Kukenboot to tight end, so they had a downfield passing game. And that lasted 3 weeks, and he's at quarterback again. So they are the same. They're down 1 rusher. He's still 6'5". They're still running with a 6'5" quarterback, 6'5", 220, I think.
It's pretty big.
Josh Allen.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's about Jill Townsend size.
Her
brother was actually that big, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was in one of
good.
those state title games, right? You were saying.
Jimmy Townsend. Yeah, he was good.
Okanagan's still good. Their defense has allowed 6 points since September.
They have pitched back-to-back shutouts in the playoffs. They beat Northwest Christian 21-0 in the semifinals, and it has now been 1,482 days since they have lost to anyone other than Napavine.
And it'll keep going up.
This podcast brought to you by Elam's Home Furnishings and Mattress Gallery. You guys need some furniture?
Always.
Of course you do, Dylan.
Dylan's moving.
You're
I
moving?
am moving to Tumwater next week.
Hell yeah. Good for you.
Don't dox yourself.
Luscious.
Give our friends at Elam's Home Furnishings and Mattress Gallery a call. Or, visit their website, elamshf.com. And you know what your new sick bachelor pad's going to need? I don't know if it's a bachelor pad. I don't know what you're up to. Some living room furniture. You sickos. Maybe some group seating. I don't know. Maybe you're entertaining guests.
New recliner.
You
Yeah,
definitely need
some
a pool
sofas.
table, Dylan.
Love seats, sectionals.
Trying to convince my parents also just moved, and
Are they moving in with you?
no, they bought a house.
They're moving into his basement.
My dad was like, "What would you do with this upstairs room?" And I was like, "You put the couch in the corner, you put the TV there, you have room for a pool table and a beer fridge in the corner." And he was like, "I don't know if your mom's gonna like vibe with that, but I like it." I was like,
Was that the exact words that your dad used?
"No, that's
Your
my
mom
dad
doesn't
told me he vibed with something."
Your dad's like, sounds sick, bro. Anyway,
Picking up what you're putting down here.
if you want to fill a finished attic like Dylan's father, visit our friends at Elam's Home Furnishings and Mattress Gallery, 1530 South Gold Street in Centralia, or, as previously mentioned, visit them online, elamshf.com. Now for the 2A Finals preview. Cody, what do your statistics say is going to happen in this game?
Well, let me pull it up real quick. This poll is even more lopsided. We've got 44 for Anacortes and 242 votes for Tumwater.
What
So
are
now
the
that we've-
percentages?
15% to 85.
Okay.
I mean, now that we figured it out, do we still have to go? Can we still go to Husky Stadium? Now that we've decided everything.
I mean,
I
I
guess.
mean, there's no use now. I mean,
Yeah, you just send this poll to the WIA and be
yeah,
like,
both number one seeds have like 200 more
It's-
votes, so it's just
you can
opposite
just
chalk.
mail the trophy
It's
to
like-
Tumwater. It's
like
fine.
the playoff committee; they're the better team. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
what's the
exactly.
point of the games?
We have a 300-person playoff committee
Don't tell Alaska that.
of teenagers.
They're probably not all teenagers.
Not all of
Some
them.
are
no.
like 12
I
with
saw
Instagram.
I
voted.
saw a little guy named Aaron Vantile voted.
I did.
Teenager at heart.
should I unveil your
I
picks?
was trying to boost your numbers. Jeez, I didn't know I was going to get read to filth like this.
Were you the one person who voted no on the should we continue these?
No, there was like 4 people that voted no, and I wanted to block all of them. I was like, okay, fine. if we're that much of a bother to you,
God, such a draconian overlord of the
Yeah.
Chronicle Instagram
Hey.
account.
I'm passionate about my work, man.
You're doing a great job. Those are fun. I love to see it pop up. Tumwater is going for its 7th state title when it faces Anacortes, which is in the championship game for the first time ever. The Seahawks didn't even field a team 4 years ago. What a come up for them.
No, it's been good. They, I think I saw they've won. They're like 35-6 since coming back. So having a team, it's a cool story.
They beat Enumclaw 34-20 to get here. And some stories in tomorrow's paper on this. First of all, Ethan Kastner is a game manager in the best way possible from Dylan. This is about their quarterback.
It is. He, like most quarterbacks, would love nothing more than to air it out, but obviously that's not Tumwater's style of play. He's spent about a decade in that system, going back to youth football. Spent a year at fullback, but in my dad's paraphrased words, didn't really vibe with it, so he made the switch. Made the switch.
I kind of love the idea of like Dylan's dad is the vibe king now.
Can we get Mr.
Cody,
still a guy.
yeah,
Can
Cody,
we get Mr. Wilhelm on the pod?
yeah, I'm just imagining Cody like lining up as a freshman against Keith Olson and getting put on his back and just being like, "Dude, I don't really like your vibe right now."
And I was spitting mud out of my teeth.
But yeah, so Kastner doesn't have to do a ton in that Tumwater offense, but he always knows what he's seeing on the field. He's very, from the high school kids I've seen, he's one of, if not the most kind of knowledgeable kids about what he sees defensively. And, you know, Willie Garrow talked about giving him the freedom to
He's making checks
make
at the line.
at the line,
Yeah.
audible flip. At one point last week, he literally yelled over, "Garrow, they're all lined up on the right." Next play is a run to the left. It went for a chunk play. I don't remember the exact yardage, but just that kind of freedom, and it really just sets everybody up for success, and that big O-line just makes life easy for whoever touches the ball. And yeah, he's a good kid too.
Yeah, he hasn't.
He has a lot of fun.
He hasn't had a ton. He hasn't really gotten to open it up, but there have been a couple of games where he's opened up. He's got like a 75% completion percent on the season. He's still racked up like 1,800 passing yards or
And
something
he's
like
got
that.
22 touchdowns to 3 picks. When they do have him air it out, he's been extremely efficient.
And then the other story, this one is another Kirschenbaum joint. Tumwater's offensive line isn't huge, but it's got the T-Birds back to prominence. Josh, your thoughts?
I mean, when you think of Tumwater, you think of Wing T and you think of power run. And when you think of that, you think of them bringing, 5 guys who are 6'3", 275 pounds for 2A football. And are like North Kitsap, that's their line. They have guys who are massive. And Tumwater's had those in the past, Garrow was saying, but this year it's not This year they've got a couple guys coming back. Last year their line was just decimated by injuries, and it was way bigger, but they just had no consistency. And they've got this year they've got a couple guards who are under 200 pounds. Orion Hari's I think they're left guard, and Cade Contreras is the right guard. They're both on the smaller side. They've got Connor Griffiths, who is a 200-pound converted linebacker. He didn't even play D-line for them. He was all defense last year. He didn't play on the line at all. He was I think he was a middle linebacker, they said. And for Tumwater, Tumwater's quarterback has been a quarterback in Tumwater's system for the past decade. And their fullback has been playing fullback his entire life because his dad played fullback his entire life and his grandfather played fullback his entire life. And meanwhile, they're the most important guy on their offensive line learned this skill 6 months ago, pretty much. And they're just completely gelling. And Garrow was saying that they're not going to blow anybody off the ball, but they have got that system down so much, and they've had the consistency where I think they've had the same starting 5 every single game, except for possibly one early on in the season, that they're just beating teams that are way bigger than them. And they're getting the results that you would expect Tumwater's rushing offense to have without maybe a line as big as you would expect Tumwater's offense to have.
Well, you know what they say about the line.
Yeah.
Low man always wins.
Yeah. They are.
I was really impressed by their offensive line just because, I was down on the field pregame, and the North Kitsap D-line was just
huge. I remember last year we compared North Kitsap's line to Wazoo's line, and Wazoo's line was 10 pounds heavier on average.
Well, I'm 6'1", and I'm a good sized guy for 2B football, and these guys get out of their 3-point stance, and I'm looking up at them. Yep. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
They were huge.
And the thing about Tumwater last year, and so many teams when you get to this, Tumwater had this, WF West had this when they played North Kitsap, is there aren't a lot of close games physically. A lot of teams are good, and a lot of teams will be good, and then they will hit their limit when they face a team that is bigger than them, and then it's lights out and you can't run. And that was Tumwater last year. They were great at manhandling smaller teams, and then they played WF West, and it was over, and they could do nothing. And last week, you saw a good offensive line go up against a good defensive line, and it really was a battle. And Tumwater had a lot of drives where not a whole lot happened, but they got down to the fourth quarter, and they did just enough to get those angles and get to that space and grind out a really back-and-forth battle in the trenches. So I think that'll be the thing again this weekend.
The scouting report on Anacortes from Willie Garrow. This is a quote. It just says, "Shit, they're fast."
I asked him, and he just goes, "Shit, they're fast." They're good. They have not been good for long. They're almost all juniors. They're skill positions. They have twin junior 3-star recruits, Brock and Brady Beaner. And I'm going to get them confused.
Banger of a name.
2 names. One of them is their lead tailback, and he's rushed for 1,000, 1,100 yards. And one of them is kind of if you think of Yelm, the Ronquillo kid, where he's rushing for 500 yards and catching 600 yards. They got another guy, Rylan Lang, who Garrow said is probably the most underrated kid in the state. He caught 3 touchdowns. Their quarterback has an 80% completion percentage, threw for 5 touchdowns last week. They're just all offensive firepower, and it's going to be a big test for Tumwater's defense.
My scouting report on Anacortes is they have sick uniforms.
They do have. There's basically TCU's uniforms.
They are TCU's, but they're sick.
Yeah, they're sick. Yeah, they're good.
Did you guys see the was it Florida Atlantic, the Miami Vice uniforms?
Oh yeah,
those were sick.
I was just looking.
Yeah, those are fine. This podcast brought to you by AmeriCool Heating and Air Conditioning. If the vibes are off in your house and Dylan's dad is displeased,
if you touch the thermostat,
call AmeriCool Heating and Air Conditioning. Sorry, I minimized my screen for a second. At 360-948-2410, their 24/7 emergency service line. But during the day, if things are cool, you can just call them at west.americoolonline.com. Check them out online.
Or you can call them at night.
Yeah, maybe you're just lonely at night. You're like, hey, what's up?
Don't do that to me.
I need somebody to warm me up.
They're poor receptionist.
Your comfort is their business, providing full service HVAC installation services and repair with a 100% satisfaction guarantee on everything they do.
Just like
Just
us.
like this podcast.
Don't step on Josh's bit, Cody. Come on.
I thought we were
Jeez.
all going to say it together.
No, it's
What?
Josh's
Is
thing.
it Josh's thing?
Yeah.
I've been saying it every week.
Just not into the mic, apparently.
Yeah.
Wow.
Had your mic off. Yeah.
Mute that man.
My bad.
west.americoolonline.com. They're the best. And
Yes,
then
they are.
finally, we've got a brackets roundup. And boy, these final matchups, just beauties.
You just run out of chalk, huh?
Yeah, in the 4As, number 1 Graham Kapowson versus number 2 Lake Stevens. Seeded committee got it right. The 3As,
That'll be a really fun one.
the 3As, number 1 Yelm plays number 6 Bellevue. I don't know, was Bellevue, did they just do some upsets? What's going on?
It's one of
Just a
those.
Richfield volleyball situation.
Yeah, it's like Bellevue's your 2. Like, come on. I mean, obviously there are teams that are better than them. I don't remember who they beat in the semifinals, but this is a matchup. Bellevue, so Yelm won the
I
title.
think it was O'Day.
O'Day, you're right.
Same.
And Yelm got here by beating Eastside Catholic, who is, the 4, and also are really, the 3As are probably better.
7-0.
Yep.
Bellevue beat O'Day?
Yeah.
Oh, finally, those scrappy, underserved youths from Bellevue fought back against the rich kids
Yeah,
from
the
O'Day.
tyrannical private schools. Yeah. You notice all the private schools that are just making football horrible by taking all the final championship spots. But yeah, Yelm won last year's state title, obviously, and Bellevue won it the year before. So it's not just one, it's 1 versus 6, but it's a battle of the last 2 state champions.
The 1A is number 1 Royal, number 2 Lakeside, 9 Mile Falls.
The one Cinderella
matchup.
story in football this year was number 12 Seton Catholic, who had a great run and then lost 42-0 to Royal, who has won 3 straight.
Is Royal a private school?
No, they just are in Royal City.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Hell yeah.
Shows.
Shout out public schools, man.
Yeah.
And then in the 2Bs, of course, number 1 Napa, number 2 Okanagan. And then the 1Bs, number 1 Liberty Bell out of Winthrop versus number 2 Wilbur Creston Keller. All in all, 6 number 1 seeds made their title games, and 4 of these are number 1. 5 of them are number 1 versus number 2.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know what? The seating committee, it's a win for them, really. Except for those 3A clowns. What were they thinking? Everybody's going to Seattle this weekend.
We're all going to be there. You're going to be there. It's gonna be
I
fun.
might, probably.
We shall see. We'll all be there. We're going to be helping out the Nisqually Valley News, so I'll be out there at the 3A game on Friday night.
Me too.
I'm
Oh,
sure
you'll
if
be
I'm
there too?
if I'm not there, it'll be like a Casablanca situation on the light rail stage where you guys are like, "Where is he? Well, he's not here." Dylan's like, "Josh, we got to get on the train."
I thought you were going to say that if you're not there, it's going to be like like last year's game, whereas and if you are there, it's going to be another 7-0.
It might be. I
I'll
don't
stay
know.
home.
I guess if it's Yelm Bellevue, it could be another 7-0 game. They seem to win low-scoring battles.
Could we get one of those like 3-2 Auburn Mississippi State games in one of these? I
Gross.
think that'd be really fun.
And this is the 1Bs, 1As, and 3As are Friday.
Yes. So the
2Bs, 2As, 4As
Yep.
Saturday, and they start at 11.
they start 11. They've added an extra hour between games to
It's
give
11, 2, and 5.
11, 3, and 7.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they're hoping to give teams a little bit more time to celebrate before kicking them out. They are the one other thing about these number 1 seeds, including Napavine and Tumwater, is it's at Husky Stadium. The higher seed is the home team. The higher seed gets the home locker room. So you're going to get both Tumwater and Napavine will get to get ready and prepare in the Huskies locker room, which is pretty cool. And Garrow was saying it was cool because like he had been there for like a coaching clinic, and you go in there and see Kadon's face on the wall for all the pro Huskies, and that'll be interesting. Try to see if Jerry can sneak in.
Yeah.
Be a fly on the wall at the.
Do you want to talk? We've got about 20 seconds left. Do you want to talk about UW? All right. Do you feel upset that they're not favored against Oregon despite
No.
being number 3?
Would you?
No.
That's
It's like 10 points.
yeah. You want to talk about basketball?
No.
There it is. Dylan wants to talk about something.
I want to talk about Florida State. If they win, they should be in. I don't understand the people
Oh, that's actually when I want to talk about the Pac-12 championship. I want to start the conspiracy that if Oregon beats UW and it's close, both teams should get in.
I think both teams should be out.
Who would be out if both teams got in?
I don't care. I just
ESPN does this weekly. They call it the anger index, where an ESPN writer ranks 6 to 8 teams that they feel should be the most angry about the rankings. And the point they made about UW being at 2 this week. It started off by saying, like, how can UW be angry? They barely scraped by a 5-7 Wazoo. They're number 3. They're 12-0, and they're in a win and in. And his point was, why are they in a win and in? Why should Oregon get the benefit of the doubt where the regular season matchup is essentially rendered meaningless? And it does have to do with the fact that Florida State's still 12-0. Michigan and Georgia are probably going to be undefeated conference champs. Like, there's a lot else.
I just think, if Oregon wins and it's close, then the season series is tied. Oregon should be 2, UW should be 3, and they should just break their tie. It would be great.
All right, we're going to close it down there. I got to pee.
Don't even get me started on Texas versus Bama. The game should matter.
Have fun at Husky Stadium, everybody. It should be great.